everybody.
Welcome back to Tandem Fandom's Top 10 list. I'm Courtney.
I'm Mick.
And today we're going over our number 3 and number 4 picks of our top 10 favorite wrestlers of all time.
Of all time. So, to get a little bit of a recap, for those of you that may not have seen, or even if you did see the previous episodes, let's hit it.
Starting off at my number 10, I had Ravishing Rick Rude.
I had the Olympic gold medalist who won that Olympic gold medal with a broken freaking neck. Kurt Angle, it's true, it's true.
And at my number 9, I had the bizarre one. Goldust.
I had the hardcore legend right here on YouTube, Mick Foley. Bang bang!
And I had the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes.
I had the straight edge savior of professional wrestling, CM Punk at number 8.
And at number 7, I had Austin 316, Stone Cold the Texas Rattlesnake.
What? I had the man that gives us the gift of Jericho. Drink it in, man. Y2J, Chris Jericho, the sexy beast, baby!
And at number 6, I had a legit boss, Sasha Banks.
I had the demon of Bray County, Wicklow, Ireland, Finn Balor.
And at number 5, we both had the demon of Death Valley, The Undertaker.
Rest in peace. But without further ado, let's dive into the number 4 and number 3 on our top 10 list of all time.
Yes.
At my number 4, I have a man who is, without a shadow of a doubt, the greatest professional wrestler we have seen in this business in the past 15 years. A man who has transcended what it means to be a pro wrestler, breaking every barrier along the way. Of course, I am talking about the American Dragon, Daniel Bryan. Yes! 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 Without a shadow of a doubt.
A goat, someone said.
He is the GOAT. Daniel Bryan, Bryan Danielson, whatever you want to know him as, whatever you want to call him, cannot be denied as the greatest technical wrestler we have seen enter the business of professional wrestling in the modern era. The man has achieved and accomplished pretty much everything you can in the WWE and on an international level, something that many wrestlers cannot say they have done.
Right, he's transcended limitations, he's transcended continental borders.
It's true. For a man that was told, you're too small, you don't have enough personality, you can't achieve greatness in this business, he proved everyone wrong, and he didn't do it by cutting a shoot promo. He didn't do it by having a ridiculous gimmick. He did it by simply being the best in the world. I know that's something Chris Jericho says a lot, but with Daniel Bryan, Bryan Danielson, it's something that is inherently true. And the only thing that breaks my heart is that due to injuries, the opportunity that this man has to go out and perform as an artist, because that's what I truly look at him and see as an artist, was taken away and his career cut short due to injury. It's heartbreaking. When you look at what that man accomplished, and that he never cared about fame, he never cared about riches, he only wanted to wrestle. Before I talk about the matches that he's done and the things that he's accomplished in the business, I want to talk about a speech that he recently performed for children in, I believe it was Spokane, Washington, maybe it was Aberdeen, but it was at an elementary school. and he went and spoke to children to talk about the things that he had done in the professional wrestling business. And he said that he would wake up from dreams of professional wrestling. He would wake up and dream about being in the ring, performing for fans, competing with a peer, setting the bar, reaching a level that most people never can achieve or reach in their professional life. And he would wake up to headaches. He would wake up to sadness, knowing that that path and that road had ended. It wasn't because he had been in this business for 35, 40 years. It wasn't because he had reached a level of fortune or fame or notoriety that he was able to just comfortably walk away from the business. It was because his body, unfortunately, gave up on him through seizures, through headaches, through concussion issues. Bryan Danielson, unfortunately, had to walk away from something that he loved, something that gave him his marriage, something that gave him the ability to train in martial arts, to help give back to his community, all these things. And for that, he is an amazing person, an amazing wrestler, and I wish we had more individuals like him in the wrestling business.
Just oozing with charisma, just an everyman that everyone can relate to, and anybody that he would pass by on the street that had fallen down, he would lend a hand to pick them up.
He's an incredible human being. Bryan is an example of what we as people should strive to be, but I'm not here to talk about the person that is Bryan Danielson. I'm here to celebrate his achievements and accomplishments as a professional wrestler, which has earned him a high spot on my list. He is the last person on my list that he would have been my top favorite active professional wrestler in the world today. He was, until his retirement, which is why he is at the number 4 spot. But the sort of things that he was able to do, and again, like I said, he never really had a strong gimmick. You couldn't really look at him and say, oh, well, this is his gimmick, this is what he does.
This is the part he plays.
Yeah, a lot of the gentlemen on my list, you can look at them and point out something that stands out about them. That's something he never really had, and it's something that there was criticism on him over his career, but I think where he really shined was through the wrestling, be it his 80-minute match with Austin Aries in Ring of Honor, be it with his, although this would be a low point in his career, the 18-second match with Sheamus at WrestleMania where he lost to one Brogue Kick, to the culmination of years and years of work and dedication to having 2 matches on a WrestleMania card, to being in one of the early matches, to going to the main event, to win the world title. It's absolutely amazing. And it's a moment that I think if you look over the course of wrestling history, very few people have a moment that stand close to what Bryan achieved. And
especially because of the crowd support, the yes movement. I mean, there's nothing else that compares.
Absolutely nothing. Bryan achieved greatness and achieved immortality, and the reason he did is because of you. You sitting there watching this video right now, you sitting there looking up on YouTube about anything pro wrestling related, you subscribing to the WWE Network, you watching Ring of Honor, TNA, New Japan, going to your local indie promotions, people like you are the reason that Bryan Danielson achieved the level of success that he did. It's the support from people like you that helped to make that a reality.
Helped him live his dream as fully as he possibly could.
And a lot of wrestlers cannot blame it solely on the fans. They can blame it on the booking, they can blame it on the writing, they can put it towards the merchandise sales, they can put it towards so many things, but they cannot singularly point at fans and say, that's why I got in that spot. Because those people that paid their money, that came to that show and cheered for me, that hijacked a show for me, helped put me in that spot. That is why Bryan got to the point that he did. Looking at all the things that he did, his matches with Kenta, this is a man that worked with a detached retina. This was a man that was briefly paralyzed in the ring in matches with Randy Orton. He gave everything he had and more, all because he wanted to entertain us and he wanted to compete as a pro wrestler and establish a legacy and established just great matches along the way. His feud with Homicide in Ring of Honor, he's one of the founding fathers of Ring of Honor. The simple fact that he was fired from NXT after something so stupid as choking Justin Roberts with his tie, and we're a PG company, you can't choke people, pal. You know, but they brought him back, and rightfully so. You know, his feud with The Miz, he capturing the World Heavyweight title from Mark Henry, you know, the great matches that he had with CM Punk, both on Ring of Honor level and on WWE level. But his Team Hell No, I mean, everything the man did was magical in that ring. You know, starting the Yes movement, I think my favorite moment when I think about Bryan, with all the matches, with the history and the legacy of wrestling that he left for us to go back and look at, the moment that stands out the most for me, he wins the title at WrestleMania 30, the confetti's coming down, the people are cheering and chanting yes, and to see him go ringside and hug his niece and hug his sister. Wrestling is a work. We know it's a show, we know it's entertainment, but you look at that, in that moment, that was real. He had been a world champion before. He had reached the pinnacle. But at that moment, it was the payoff. It was that moment of achieving immortality. That's a moment that we saw with Shawn Michaels with, the boyhood dream has come true! You know, that's a moment that people dream about, to stand there and have everyone looking at you and you are celebrated as the best. And in that moment, he was celebrated as the absolute best. Despite the injuries, despite the pain that he had in his neck at the time, in that one brief shining moment, he was the best in the world, the best in the business. It was beautiful.
It was beautiful. And when he had to vacate the IC title, it was just heartbreaking. The way he just stood in the ring and just, you could see him. He was just drinking in the vibrations of everyone chanting yes, yes, yes for the last time.
When he retired, he had said that he still hadn't accepted the fact that it was over. Vince McMahon called him and made it clear that no matter what, he would never wrestle in the WWE again. He had wrestled his last match, it was over. He was giving him the opportunity to walk away in his hometown of Seattle, Washington. And he said that it didn't sink in. It hadn't landed for him, that he still felt like he could, but he understood that no matter what he wanted, it was the end. This was after knowing he had had seizures, knowing that he had a brain lesion, knowing that he woke up every day with headaches, knowing that it was over. He goes into the ring in Seattle, he gives an impassionate speech, and I'm not afraid to admit, I wept. I wept for a man that loved and loves the business of professional wrestling, that appreciates the art that it is, that gave everything and more to this business. So when he spoke about how he was grateful, I couldn't help but feel the gratitude myself for everything that he gave, because he truly gave his health and possibly his future for me, for her, for you. So that speech was very emotional. He spoke of being grateful, and at this moment, for somebody he may never see, I would just like to say, Brian, thank you. I'm grateful for everything you gave to us. I'm sad to see it end abruptly, but I am grateful. So who do you have at number 4?
Well, on a lighter note, I suppose. I mean, you can't really bring the house down much more. But you know, how can I follow that? Except for with a showstopper.
Oh boy!
Of course, I am talking about the one, the only, the one who broke the mold, Dolph Ziggler. It's just too bad.
Oh yes, so good,
Right
so
here. Dolph, I loved him from the first moment I saw him. I love him more now than I did when he had like the plastic, like Nazi hair.
I was gonna say
I was okay with him in
Barbie's kin,
in
but
Spirit Squad, but well, Ken didn't have blonde hair. But I mean, there were other ones that had blonde hair. Anyway, that's another video.
that's another story for another time.
But Dolph, he's one of the best workers in the business, and that's why I appreciate and respect him, because he could put on a match with his shadow, and that shadow would be the next world champion.
I agree. I remember when I saw the character of Dolph for the first time, because he was involved in the Spirit Squad as Nikki!
Yay!
But I remember when I saw the character of Dolph for the first time, you know, he would come up to different people backstage and be like, "Hi, Dolph Ziggler!" Like, that was his thing. He would just introduce himself, and I looked at it and I'm kind of like, who the hell is this guy?
Right.
You know, because it was kind of weird and goofy. But then you started to see this guy work, and you're like, oh, all right, like, okay, like, he was athletic. He was different. He reminded me a lot of a young Chris Jericho, where you saw this guy go out, he could deliver physically, and he just kind of took you off guard, because he wasn't the biggest guy, he wasn't the most muscular, but he could go out and put on a great match.
Put on a hell of a
Win,
match.
lose, draw, he could perform.
And going back to him not being the biggest guy, he was a collegiate wrestler. Kent State, one of the best wrestlers to come out of Kent State.
The winningest of all time at the I don't know if it's still the case, but he was.
Right.
He had the most pins in Kent State history.
But what was it, his final match, or it was tryouts or something?
It is a WWE tryout.
He was going against someone named Bobby Lashley.
And he was thinking at the time, I've heard him tell the story, he was like, oh man, it's gonna be Bobby Lashley. Like, man, I'm gonna go in there, I'm gonna blow this guy out of the water. And he shows up 167 pounds straight off the collegiate wrestling mat against this 265 pound jacked up massive humanity in Bobby Lashley.
So Bobby Lashley ended up in the WWE. But Dolph made it eventually.
He did.
He had to be a cheerleader. He was a caddy at one point.
For a moment.
But eventually, you know, he broke on through with Vicky Guerrero as his manager.
Excuse me!
Excuse me! Turn your volume down, everybody. It's Vicky Guerrero. But, you know, and he had that good, like, snotty, evil guy look, but he worked so well in the ring, and, you know, he's been Intercontinental Champion, he's been World Champion for about 15 seconds. He was, oh no, 15 minutes, sorry, 15 minutes. He's been U.S. Champion, you know, he's made his rounds around the belts, but I like what he still does in the business. You know, he's kind of a mid-card guy, but he puts on the best show he possibly can. He tells the stories that he's in. He works with the guys. He always makes it look great. I really liked his program. He just worked with Baron Corbin.
Yeah, that was great.
Because Baron needed a little help a little bit of a push, and Dolph is the guy that you put those guys in with. He can wrestle. They brought up his Kent State work as well with the the collegiate rules match, but then he just nailed
Kicked
Corbin
him in
in
the
the
dick.
pills. That was hilarious. But classic Dolph, that attitude showstopper.
The thing I love about Dolph, and the one word I would use to describe him, is unselfish.
Yes, absolutely.
He understands.
I mean, you know, not
Well,
not barring his gimmicks or his shirts or anything, but you know, as a wrestler, as a man, he does do things for other wrestlers.
he understands his point. You described him as a mid-card wrestler. At no point do I see him go into that ring and perform like he thinks that he is. He goes out and he performs as if he is the main event. He could be the first match on the card. He will try and steal the show every time, and I appreciate that about Dolph. I think more guys need to have that mindset of, I don't care where I am, I'm going to have the best match, and you have to stop me from having the best match. You have to do better than me every time. And I appreciate that about him. I think it's a fantastic
Yeah, because
part of him.
it really looks like he just puts his heart and soul into every match, and every time he pins a guy like this, I'm like, oh, he's so exhausted. He puts on such a match. Wow.
The only criticism I have is if I watch another Dolph Ziggler ladder match, I'm probably going to pass out because of the climbing the ladder. It slows. You can.
Oh, it's so hard. You gotta shake the ponytail.
It could be the first thing he does in the match, and he's like,
because he's just that good.
I do love Dolph Ziggler.
He puts on a show, and I'm sure his stand-up comedy is just as good as his wrestling.
God, I hope so. I'm kidding. I'm sure he's hilarious.
But yeah, I love everything about him. I love his rock and roll persona. He's just one of my favorite active wrestlers today, obviously, because he's, well, my number 4 in my top 10 list. I'll love him until the day he retires.
Speaking of our active pro wrestlers, we come to my favorite active professional wrestler in the business today, but I feel a little underdressed. If I could for a moment, just well, that's much better. My number 3 favorite wrestler of all time, and my favorite active wrestler in the business today, the cleaner, Kenny Omega. Do you have a moment, YouTube? Because let me tell you about the greatness that is Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega does things in the ring that other wrestlers pretend to do. Simply put, he is redefining what it means to be a professional wrestler in the world today. Everything the man does is excellence. He blends everything perfectly. I've heard him say that his goal is to make professional wrestling appeal to non-wrestling fans. He wants them to be able to look at one of his matches and take something away that they can enjoy. He wants people to look at his matches and get a smile on their face. How can you not
Support this guy.
absolutely? Everything he does is greatness. I mean, his match with I spoke about this before, but his match with Prince Devitt for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title is one of the best matches I've ever seen in my life. I watch it regularly still because it's so good. His match with Tanahashi was amazing. His most recent ladder match with Michael Elgin was amazing. You know, where he captured the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship from Taguchi. It was so good. You know, his teaming with Ibushi was amazing. His matches with Ibushi and DDT were amazing. Oh, and not to mention, when a man is able to go into the ring and have a match with, number 1, an 8-year-old girl, and number 2, a sex doll, and make them convincing and entertaining matches, what's not to love about the guy?
Right?
He's simply amazing. The way he blends everything about him as a person into his wrestling matches and persona is incredible. The uses of the Hadouken.
Yeah.
You know,
The spinning pile driver. As best he can.
yeah, you know, the Terminator moment where he you know, when he slowly rises, he does the over-the-top rope plancha. It's so stupid. Every time he bounces off the ropes before doing the plancha, he has like a little hitch in his step. It's such a small thing.
Little point.
Yeah, it's such a small thing, but I
it's Kenny.
absolutely love it.
Yeah.
You look at a Kenny Omega match and you understand that this is who he is. He's not replicating anyone. He's not trying to be the next anyone. He's simply Kenny Omega.
Yeah, he's being himself as a pro wrestler.
Yeah, not to mention, everything about him as a person is amazing. He incorporates the fact that he loves video games. He makes that a part of his character. You know, the persona of the Cleaner is a amalgamation of Marion Cobretti from Cobra, of Albert Wesker from Resident Evil. Just all these little things and these little touches that he says, well, what can I do differently? You know, he looked at the Bullet Club and he says, well, okay, so they're kind of like the NWO. I could kind of incorporate being like Scott Hall, but I can do this and I can do this. And
He kind of was the Yankee archetype from anime.
yeah, everything about the man is incredible. He's a wonderful human being. He's a gift to professional wrestling. My hope is that more people can see the work that Kenny is doing and appreciate and understand. My hope, my goal is to raise awareness.
About Kenny Omega.
That's what I'm here to do, people. I'm here in hopes that you watch this video and you say, man, Mick really seems to enjoy this Kenny Omega fellow, and you go out and you seek out the work that he's doing, because it's so good. It's so groundbreaking. It's so different. And in the world of professional wrestling, where everybody's trying to be the same, this is a guy.
Everybody's Shawn Michaels. Sorry, Dolph.
This is a guy that's trying to be different. He is a match of the year factory. Literally, the man produces matches of the year. You spoke of Shawn Michaels. He recently had a match with Michael Elgin in New Japan, the first ever ladder match in New Japan for the Intercontinental Championship. Much like Shawn Michaels, he went out and had a match with a ladder. It's amazing. I appreciate everything that the man does. I cherish every match that he does because he constantly improves, he constantly outdoes himself. Kenny, thank you. Senpai, thank you. Please.
Look him up. What I love to watch, and we've watched it a couple times actually, is Begin Japanology.
Absolutely,
The
yes.
Japanophile episode where Peter Barakin interviews Kenny Omega. And it's just such a great insight into the man and the wrestler. And you just love him. You can't help but love him. He's adorable.
He's an incredible human being. He cares for his fans. He takes time out of a busy schedule.
He responds to people on Twitter.
I mean, maybe, you know, I've only tweeted
They're
him
best
a
friends.
couple of times, you know. But no, you know, Kenny, thank you for everything you do. You know, your Anywhere match that you did, you know, that got you to Japan. Even some of the work that you did when you were in, you know, developmental. I watched your match with, at the time he was Heath Miller, now known as Heath Slater. It was a great match. Every match the man has had, he gets better, and he's constantly outdoing himself. He did a match with, good lord, what was his name? He did a match with Kevin Matthews, where Mick Foley was involved, so he did kind of a Mankind
Took his sock off.
tribute. I mean, this is a guy who says that one of the guys he'd like to wrestle is Vince McMahon because of the story you could tell with it. No one thinks that way. No one thinks, like, what story can I tell with this match? But Kenny does. It's what separates him. It's what makes him great.
Yep.
He's the best wrestler in the world today. I don't care what anybody else says. He's my favorite wrestler, wrestling, walking the planet today. Kenny, thank you.
Hi.
That's all I got. That's all I got. Go look him up. Pro Wrestling Tees, Kenny Omega. Support the man. I know I did.
Well, if you're gonna have some sort of magic costume change, I wonder if it would work for me. I'm just gonna
It's possible.
try and...
I hear voices in my head, they count
Yeah.
to me.
Man, that changed came out of
They
nowhere.
Legend killer. What are you, Ric Flair?
Hey man, I'm just putting you over.
Hey, thank you. But I don't need it. My number 3 is, in case you couldn't tell, Randy Orton.
Oh man, so many good memories in this family with Randy
In
Orton.
this family. Especially when I accidentally bought this, I thought it was a necklace. It is not. It is a pendant.
That is a pendant you could kill a man with.
It is so heavy. I've never worn it out of the house, but when I'm feeling extra tough inside the house, I put it on, and I RKO somebody, namely this guy. But what can I say about Randy Orton? Oh my goodness. He's beautiful. He's athletic.
I love
he's
that beautiful
tall.
is the first word.
Hey, it's the reason I started watching him to begin with, back in 2006.
Mm-hmm.
It was after Evolution.
Yeah.
And
Rated RKO.
when he first became the Legend Killer, and he won me from day one. It was fantastic stuff. Really, why I started watching wrestling again in the first place, because he just had this swarthy attitude, and he was just, better than everyone else, and proved it in the ring. And when he partnered with Edge,
Absolutely. It was amazing.
it was a Rated RKO was one of the coolest tag teams in recent history.
When I think about Randy Orton, I think of two things. Number one, I remember when he debuted and he was tag teaming with Bob Holly. He's this young, wet behind the ears kid, and
Very crispy bangs.
yeah, they're tag teaming, and he got injured. But he was really, vanilla, white meat baby face. He'd come out, do his big O sign, and he was kind of goofy.
Yep.
And then, they started to do something different with him. He would cut in with like a vignette at all the worst moments. Like if something cool or crazy was about to happen, all of a sudden, boom, here comes in this Randy Orton. He's sitting there, he's in a sling, and he's like, "Hi, I'm Randy Orton. I just wanted to let you know my shoulder is at 48% mobility right now." And he kept doing it and kept doing it until he eventually debuted with Evolution. And he's,
Under Triple H and Flair and Batista. And
Yeah.
What a team.
and he became the Legend Killer. But through all these years, through all the things I've seen him do with Legacy, with Evolution, with his Rated RKO run, with his solo run, my absolute positively favorite Randy Orton moment,
Yeah.
he handcuffs Triple H to the ring ropes. RKO's Stephanie.
Speaking of swarthy cockiness.
Stephanie's laid out, she's on her back, and he plants a kiss on an unconscious Stephanie McMahon as Triple H is attached to the ropes, and he's steaming, he's pissed
Just
off.
Classic Triple H pissivity.
It's some of the best heel stuff.
Or he just laughs, his
Yeah.
little teeth, his little fang showing.
It was amazing. It's some of the best heel stuff I've seen in modern professional wrestling because it was just so good.
Yeah,
and
he's just got that kind of, that deep, evil assholishness that really shines through. Because in real life, he's kind of a dick. And, some of the best gimmicks are yourself cranked up to 11. And he plays it so well. Like, even when he is a good guy, he's still just this dark entity, kind of. He's never gonna be John Cena in the ring.
No.
He'll always just be the quiet, cocky badass.
Would you like to share with everyone your
My first-
experiences with Randy?
My
Personal
first
experience?
actual interaction, if you can call it an interaction. It's 2006. We're going to Vengeance at Time Warner Cable Arena.
Yes.
And, you go, you find where the vans and stuff go in so you can maybe catch a peek of some wrestler. And this is really when he's introducing me into modern wrestling and whatnot. So I'm all starry-eyed and I'm excited. And lo and behold, there's Randy Orton talking to some suit, And I'm like, oh my god, it's Randy! Randy! And he turns around and he turns back around.
He looks and then completely turns,
Full on back.
overly turns his back.
Very deliberately ignores me. And I was like,
At that point, I got to explain what a heel was.
he's like, well, honey, in wrestling,
Randy's a bad
he's
guy.
a bad guy, and bad guys don't talk to fans. And okay. But then, another time, this is later at a Raw, I think it was Rick's Go Home Raw.
It was and I can't remember the WrestleMania, but it was the Raw before Ric Flair retired.
Yeah. And I guess Randy was more of a good guy at this point.
No, he was a heel because
Okay.
it was DX
That's right.
against rated RKO.
That's right. Keeping with the swarthiness, especially since he was partnered with Edge, we're about 3 rows back to the right of the commentary table.
No, we were second row.
That's right. First row, second
we were
row.
first row, but the Flair family was put in front of us. We bought first row tickets, yet somehow the Flair
Suddenly,
family
chairs appeared in front of us.
It's whatever. David
Fine.
Flair has a giant head. That's
Just
not the point.
Not the point. And it's a tag match, and Randy's standing on the apron. He's the corner opposite of us, but on our side of the ring, and the wrestling's happening. But I'm staring at Randy.
She was.
I just bought this shirt, and I'm staring at him. I'm like, wow, there he is. He's right there. Because that's one of the coolest things about live events. It's like they're literally right there.
They're there.
And you get to live in that moment of they're right there. And I'm staring at him, and he's kind of looking out over the crowd, and he looks at me. And I'm like, I wear glasses, I can't see that well, and I'm like, is he looking at me? I think he's looking at me. I feel like he's looking at me. And he winks. And I died, and I'm speaking to you beyond the grave.
She died in that moment.
Because everyone else is watching the match, and I'm just this big moon face staring at him, so of course he saw me. And I turned to him, and I'm like, hey, don't just wait a minute.
As a man, there are moments in your life where you should be concerned when another man winks at your significant other. But I know how much she loves Randy Orton, so I was okay with it.
But
Plus,
when
he could probably kick my
When
ass.
that man's Randy Orton, and you're separated by a barrier, well,
You look the other way.
But, that was the one time that he actually did throw me some love. But, back to the wrestling. He puts on a great match, especially when he started hearing the voices
Oh,
and
yeah.
stuff. And he
That was
got
such
the-
a great change.
The little extra crazy with he's hearing voices again, and he's just like the tongue and stuff. And he goes going down, hitting the mat, waiting for the RKO. When he really got to go over the top with his selling and stuff. That's the Randy I love. Although him and Seth at WrestleMania
Oh, that RKO was so amazing.
was so cool, and his timing and his spots and the like I said, the whole Legend Killer run. That DDT did to RVD is still like tops, just because it was so wild in the moment.
My favorite Randy match of all time was him.
And Mick Foley, yeah.
At that moment, he became legitimized to
Absolutely,
me because
absolutely.
yeah, you know, he was put in a spot. He was Intercontinental Champion. He was World Heavyweight Champion. He had done some things, but Mick made him real.
Well, like
he made him a main. He showed this kid is a despicable son of a bitch, and anybody that's gonna take a thumbtack bump, it gets my respect.
Well, like I said, he was young, pretty, athletic, you know, and we know how that works out for some wrestlers,
Yep.
like Rocky Maivia. And you just sometimes they just need that extra bit of a push in some direction for people to pay attention to them, to respect them as wrestlers.
Yeah.
And that's what Mick Foley does, especially for the younger talents that he went against before he finally stopped. Before he finally stopped wrestling. God love you, Mick. But yes, that match, it really put Randy over the top for everybody.
And of course, he has had the rivalry of all time, him and John Cena. They could wrestle until the end of time,
Yeah.
and I would never get tired of it because they really are the opposite
Yeah,
ends
just
of,
polar opposite. Randy Orton is evil John Cena.
and it's kind of awesome.
Yeah.
Man,
I hope he comes back. I know he's been out for a long time with his recent shoulder injury. And you know, he has hypermobile shoulders, so it happens.
Yeah.
But I haven't heard any news.
he'll supposedly he's been advertised for August events.
Okay, so maybe SummerSlam.
Very possibly.
That would be great, because I miss you, Randy.
I do too. I miss you as well, Randy. Despite the fact that my wife is in love with you, I miss you. And I miss the RKO out of nowhere.
Maybe that's how he'll come back. He'll just
Show up and
He'll
RKO
just show
somebody.
up, magically manifest in the middle of the ring and RKO somebody.
Well, folks, I think we have concluded our...
Gush fest.
Oh, it ain't over yet.
Oh, just wait for number 2 and number 1.
That's right. Well, in any case, let us know what you guys think in the comments. You know, we've appreciated seeing who your favorite wrestlers are, who your top 10 list is. It's been a lot of fun. It's been really great for us. You know, so please like, comment, subscribe, and share the video.
Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
And as always, like we say here on Tandem Fandom, if you're going to be a fan,
Bring a friend.